The 3 sounds I'm sharing today with little mini practices are the ones I use most commonly in my work with survivors of trauma. They're accessible. I work with people from all over the world. Many of them have a reference point for, oh, that's an O sound with a little flair. I like to play with it. Many of them, some people go, that's really weird, but a lot of people go, oh yeah, that's a holy sound, or that's. So I've picked the 3 sounds that are most accessible to my clients, and I'm going to teach you little bits that I invite you to explore on your own later. And what we're doing is we're using the different frequencies, the lunar. You can't hear my lunar, but if I go like this, you can hear a little bit. It's hard because if you start to make the lunar audible, you tend to have to constrict here, kind of like Ujjayi, which is great, but it's just different. It's kind of like the tide receding. Each of these 3 waves we're exploring today has a different intention. We do have theories about what the sounds do. I prefer to have you experience it and figure out what it does for yourself before I impose my idea. So I don't know how you all experience the lunars, but what I will share about that sound and why it's probably the one I teach the most is because it tends to be an invitation to the parasympathetic nervous system, the homeostasis-sizing and sociostasis-sizing part of the autonomic nervous system. Emily would say it would invite parasympathetic calm. I think that's a simplified way to talk about its impact. She talked about it as kind of neutralizing separation. And she was actually researched by Dr. Valerie Hunt, who's no longer alive, who was at UCLA. And we now know that we human beings have, the mystics would call it an aura, but we have an energetic field that is measurable. When Emily did the lunars over and over, that would disappear. So it was almost as if it dissolved separation. So I have found it to be something that's really helpful because you can do it and nobody knows you're doing it, right? So yes, Kay, you talked about having a safe space to do. I do it on airplanes. I do it in cars. I do it, to kind of just. Having said that, I had you fill this space here. You can fill your whole body with lunars. It's also expansive. And sometimes that's too much for people, which is why we're going to do a counterpoint sound of O's and E's. Counterpoint means it's a very different frequency. I'm just going to pause. Are there any questions about what I'm saying? A little bit about the lunars. Okay, that is Monica. Hi. Oh, Monica, you're
Yeah. Now, am I unmuted? Yes.
yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. So I heard you say that because when we were doing the lunars, obviously I thought, oh, this is very similar to the Ujjayi breath, right? But then you said no because it constricts. So I'm just wondering if it's more of an expansion of the
Yep.
like letting it expand. Is
Yeah.
that what it is? And
Yeah.
just letting the breath, because it's very subtle, because if we summon like a wave, like Ujjayi is like a wave, like, and so it's very I imagine it's very subtle of a difference.
It is. Ujjayi, the way that I learned Ujjayi, because I also do yoga, is, it's very tonifying. So you can feel more of the muscle tone, whereas lunar is very intentionally melting, deconstructing. That's why I said you soften your glottis, you soften your vocal cords. Emily would say, if you can hear it, you're doing it wrong.
Okay.
My experience, what I say to clients is I feel an inner tide. You know that sound of the tide pulling back from the shore? That's kind of how I sense this. And it is probably, of all the breaths that we work with, it's the one that invites the most wave motion, not for everybody, and wakes up the fluid body. So for some people, it's the first thing I start with. For some, it might take a while, depending upon how okay it is for them to soften, right? But I'm going to teach you something called lunar pools, which is my trauma adaptation of this. But first, before I do that, Grace, I'm going to ask you to, I think I have to ask you to unmute. There we go.
Yes, that Monica asked the question I was, but maybe now I got a little confused. You said you got your mouth close to maybe you get your mouth close to the microphone and do it one more time.
Yeah. I don't even know where the microphone is on my computer. Where is it? Is it in? Did you hear that?
I heard it just right at first, but it's a little sound and expansive, like you were telling Monica.
Yeah, it's that. I bet you that was a. Did you hear that?
No, but thank you. I mean, now I was doing Ujjayi breath, and then you went, it's not Ujjayi breath. So, okay, expansive. All right, I think we got it.
Where's the microphone on a Mac? Like, is it on the thing on the?
I think the problem is that Zoom actually muffles out those sounds, so it's difficult with breath work.
Yeah, and there's a Zoom button that lets you make sounds, but where it is, who knows? Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's meant to be inaudible. Like, I'll just share this little snippet though. Emily used to tease me because I can actually, because she felt that if we did them too loud, we started to do something different. I can do lunars. Did you hear that? Yeah, it must be Zoom. Fairly loud, staying soft. And I would often do them. I was a first responder in the Haiti earthquake. I did psychosocial work down there. And I would often do them in spaces and watch the shift in the room. They have they work not only with our own nervous system, with the collective nervous system. They can be very, like, removing the constraints of fear. If we were live, I would let you all come close to me and hear me, but we just can't do that in the Zoom space. So, yeah, if you end up liking this and wanting to explore more, the Continuum Teachers Association, there are teachers, many who do Zoom classes. So you can look it up. So I want to teach what I call a trauma adaptation of the lunars. So the lunars are meant to expand. Exploring space internally or externally can bring up fear. I'm going to speak very simply about very complex things. Moving the body through space when we're in fear or terror can be very difficult, very frightening. So understanding the power of the lunars to soften, parasympathetize, help the autonomic nervous system regulate would be a better way to say that. I started playing with something called lunar pools. So what I'm going to invite you to do right now is just to find a place in your body that feels tight or tense. I'm going to go from my left shoulder, like above my shoulder, the I guess it's up here. Is it the traps up here? Like these muscles that get really tight, the top of the trapezius. Just find a place that feels tight. It may or may not correspond directly to something that you identify as trauma. And send some lunars in there. Take a minute. I like to put my hand on the place. That's optional. If our bones can conduct sound, so I often will put my hand on the tight place. And while I'm doing the sound, send it through my arms to the place. Sometimes people think that's weird, so they don't want to do it. You're going to identify the place and then pool lunars. Now, what do I mean by that? Like a whirl, like pools, a pool of water. Some people go, what do you mean by pool? Imagine it's a pool of water contained in that place. I often do any place in the body that's a dip, underarms, but choose a place with some constriction and just play with it. Send some lunars in there and pull them around and pause periodically. We'll go for about 5 minutes and see what happens. Just play with it. If you have a question, I'm going to put this back on gallery. If you have a question, by all means, do the yellow hand while we're doing this. Dogs love the lunars. There's a dog right there. Dogs love the lunars. So you're sending the lunar in, and then you're pulling it around in a contained space between two bones or into the muscle body. You can do this anywhere, as long as it's contained. And as always, it's a practice of allowing. So you might lunar the whole 5 minutes, but periodically it's nice to pause and just allow what wants to happen. Take your hand off. Is there any movement? And again, it might be a little ripple. It might be a whole arm raise. Your whole body might want to move. Sometimes we go into asanas, we go into a dance sequence, whatever arises. Can actually be really profound to feel a subtle, like softening in a muscle and just a really tiny movement, because those tiny, tiny movements support all of our bigger movements. And when they're liberated, that's the path to liberation and transformation, right? The little spaces that we pattern over. We're playing here. We're actually playing. I'm going to go a couple more minutes. If you feel done, you can move to another place. As always, if it's not comfortable, pause. Step away, do what you need to do. Resting is always welcome in this practice if you just need to rest. Sometimes I'll drop into that sleep place when you're awake but asleep for like 4 or 5 minutes, and it's incredible. Any new neural pathway we create in any experience, we know that experience can change the brain, and by creating new neural pathways, it doesn't become part of us if we don't rest. We have to rest to integrate it. So and I'm going to again invite you to move into open attention, which is when you're not lunaring, but just letting your body do what it wants to do, whether it's taking a mini nap to a big dynamic movement. And let that open attention, let that movement or stillness find its way to a pause. We'll take about a minute. It's so important. One of the most important things about working with movement in trauma is allowing the transition. Embodied justice is when we allow ourselves to observe our own rhythm. So often the facilitator's voice will be the end of the movement, but that's not our voice, right? So find your own pause. I'm leaving like a minute or so for that. Yes, we have the constraint of our class time, but in that limit. So glad some of you are on your nests. And if you want to keep moving when we gather, please do. I mean, this is often people find, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, my mother at the age of like 86, she never did any, she walked. She went to her first Continuum class and she said, I cannot stop moving, right? We were working with little movements and yeah. She's like, wow, I just want to move. So again, I welcome a couple people to check in. I'm going to actually share just a little bit in terms of localizing the lunars. So again, this is going counter to what the lunars are supposed to do. I was sometimes the renegade with Emily and in Continuum practice, but working with people who were living with a lot of fear, it was too much to just, even what I had you do for 5 minutes was too much for some people. So pulling them, finding little places. I had you go to a place of physical constraint to keep it contained. But with my clients, if we found a place where fear lived, a place in the gut, a place in the heart that was connected to their trauma, we'd work up to it, but that's where we would pull the lunars. And it might be for 30 seconds, and it might be for 5 minutes, and it might be work up to 10 minutes. I shifted from my shoulder to my sacrum. And the reason I'm sharing this is because it was actually quite profound. There's a lot of profoundness in these little movements. 6 months ago, I had major spine surgery, emergency surgery, because I could no longer walk. I lost the use of my left leg. It worked, but I couldn't. I've had 13 car accidents, didn't cause any. So it was accumulated shearing in my spine. And if anyone here has ever had spinal surgery, the nerve pain is intense and it's like moving anything. I'm 6 months out and the doctors and PTs can't believe how much I can move. I've been doing lunar pulls in my sacrum. I just moved my hand there. And the ability to do this kind of flexion and extension is so much bigger than it should be because of lunar pooling in that area where there's a heck of a lot of nerve pain. Anybody and again, I'm just saying 2 people because so that I can teach you O's and E's, and we're going to do some spinal work, which is another way that I use this. Anybody want to share or ask a question? Just raise your yellow hand or unmute. I want to know if this is landing. Okay. Hello, Eric. Is that, oh, wait. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Your name is covered by, okay. Joanne. Hi. Huh.
Oh, am I unmuted now?
Now
Okay.
you are. Perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. I just wanted to share, interesting, it started, I have issues in my left shoulder, so I started there, and like huge amount of heat. Like I was in the pooled area, I was feeling this beautiful radiated heat happening there, and like noticed a huge shift very quickly. And then I've also been struggling with sciatica, which I think is hilarious because I say hilarious because it's manifested since I started the integrated somatic therapy training. So my body is screaming to me to pay attention. And then I just noticed also like a lot of like just energy shifting, temperature changes, like different emotions just coming up. So I just like went with the emotional feelings that were coming up. And then it shifted to my, like, I've been having the more sciatica on the back of my right hip. And like, I could feel like an interesting like connection I've never really felt that connection before between whatever's going on in my left shoulder and my right hip. It felt like there's some kind of connection there. Yeah. Again, hit lots and lots of heat again in the left back, the lower back and the left hip. And then also naturally through all of this, sighing like crazy, like my body just sighing and sighing. Yeah, right? Just lots of sighing. And then I noticed even with movements, like for some reason, this happens to me quite a lot. Like I noticed needing to almost move in like a figure 8, like an infinity sign, both my shoulders and my hips.
Yep. That was
so
a lot.
I just wanted to share that.
That happened in that 5 minutes, all of that?
In both like the first practice and the second practice.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Joanne. So a couple things. Yeah. Infinity signs. I play a lot again. And I'm just going to weave in, Erica, you asked a question about starting with subtle versus big movement. And I'm going to connect it to what Joanne is saying. Yes, I'm a dance therapist. I often work with big movement. That's, I did a master class about 6 months ago, and we did much more of that. We're just focusing on breath today. So yes. And coming back to what Joanne said, often when I do more dance-like work with the spine, we're going to do some O's and E's in the spine. We're probably not going to get to the dance part of it again this morning or this afternoon, whatever it is for you. But I often, people, circles, spirals, and infinities. Those are the natural movements of the spine. Those are the natural movements of the body. That's I do a whole, oh my goodness. I didn't even know this phone worked. Sorry about that. I do a whole, I don't know how to turn it off. I do a whole body of work, a whole morning. I think we're just going to have to listen to that. I don't know how to turn that off. I work with that a lot. And, sometimes guided, sometimes directed, and people naturally go into those movements. And they're all the ways that the center of the body, which the spine is the backside of the center, but the center of the body will, I think, connects to the various organic shapes and movements of life. That's so funny. That phone hasn't worked for years. So there's so many things, but yes, it's, it's subtle, but profound what can come when we start to, warmth. And yes, shoulders and hips, like when we start to find those connections in the body, again, in the context of working with trauma and the body, those connections are important. So are the emotions. So as a therapist, I'm a therapist. I work in the context of psychotherapy. You all might do that or do something different. Those are all pathways. What are the emotions that arise, right? We might find our way into something that's ready to be felt and released. We may find a connection in the body that we might work. And I might be like, okay, let's send infinity signs between the shoulder and the hips with these lunars and see what opens up. And we might reconnect something. Now, somebody named Zoom user was the next person who had their hand up. And I don't know who that is. Oh, there you are. I'm asking. Oh,
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, my name's whatever. I just wonder, this is great, super interesting. And I wonder at some point, can you talk a little bit about, like, I have anxiety and panic disorder. So I have spells of anxiety and, you know, how does it work within the paradigm of what you're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, you know, again, this continuums of movement practice, I'm talking about adaptations to trauma. And I think panic and anxiety are very relevant. Those are often the ways that people express trauma. I'm not saying that that's what it always is, or that that's what it is for you. That's part of the expression of it. Anxiety, and like, so there's not one way. So if I were to say, okay, how would I use continuum with anxiety and panic? I'd want to know more about the context of those. Because kind of what a lot of people might think is, oh, you might want to use the lunars because it calms people down. That can be too much. And frankly, in anxiety and panic, calm is not the place that we go, right? Away, right? I mean, it's so different that it can be more activating to try to do that. So I might use sounds that I consider grounding. We're going to do the O's, which is a very again, I don't like to say what they're supposed to do, but we call them a love song to our biology. They're all the tubular, you know, so that might be a sound that I would use, but
Yeah,
it can be,
yeah. Certainly the trying to calm down during any of that makes everything much worse. It's something that is, there's something that's being expressed. Right.
Yeah.
And shutting it down is not the appropriate response. Right. But making it more comfortable, let it express itself is, I think, the way to go.
Yeah.
You know.
And there's not, you know, it depends upon your body. So I'm not going to teach the sound, but because of your question, I'm going to show you, there's a sound that we call the who breath, right? And this is what it looks like. Right? It's activating. It's a fire breath. That might be helpful in anxiety, but it might not. The other thing that might be helpful is what we're going to do next. And I'm going to invite everybody to observe what I'm doing because I want to make sure we get to this. I'm going to inhale, and on the exhale, I'm going to make an O sound. Oh, I'm not doing this. Oh, I'm calling the O up from inside of me. So I'm actually moving on a little bit from your question, and I'm going to invite you to see how this sound is for you. Everybody try it. And if you want it, you're all muted. Just try this next sound. Inhale. And on the exhale, oh, I can feel it in here, but I'm not just shaping it with my mouth. Oh. Oh. It's funny, I'm looking at my own mouth and it almost looks like I'm frowning, but there's an O in there. That's the O sound, which is very different from lunars. One of the things we work with in Continuum is counterpoints, different frequencies, because you might not like one. Or we also work with layering, and by the end of today, you're going to have I'm going to highlight a little sequence you can do. And we like to layer those sequences several times, because every time you layer, you go to a different layer of your tissue and you wake up more of your fluidness. Any questions about the O sound? And there's some stuff about the breath of fire. Yep, the lunars, yep. I wasn't going to teach the breath of fire, but maybe we'll if we have a few minutes. Any questions about the O sounds? I know I shifted us. I want to make sure that we can play with another little sequence. Like this is 1-800 technical support. Do you get how to do the O sound? I usually don't follow the chat. I felt vibration. Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do, right down your spine. It's a pretty straightforward sound. I use it a lot with my clients. I find the O sound grounding and centering. I don't assume that's what it's going to do for you. I never assume for anybody else. But I have found it helpful because of that. And again, because I work with so many cultures and contexts and people who come to me because of their suffering and not necessarily not expecting to do this kind of work, there's often O's are familiar and comforting. Let me teach you another counterpoint to the O's, which is the E's. Very similar. I'm going to inhale, and on the exhale, E. I'm feeling it. So go ahead and try that. You're all muted. Just do a couple of your own E's. I like to call it the jazz bar smile. You know, you walk into a jazz bar and you kind of like, it's that E, that it's a soft smile. E, it's not an E, because some people do like over shape with their mouth. E, and if any of these sounds, if you don't like them, that's okay. You don't have to do them when we play with our little sequence. E. Now, I can't hear y'all, and that's okay, but I'm going to invite everybody, wherever you are, to do one O and then one E, and just kind of notice the difference in the sound and in your body. Just do one O and then one E. O. E. Sorry, I probably should have muted myself. I interfered with your... Any technical questions about how to do the O's or the E's? Because we're going to play with them now in our spine in a very simple little sequence that I use with a lot of my clients. The spine is the pathway of interoception, right? Like the vagus nerve, like chemosensory receptors in the blood. The spine is one of the most powerful pathways of interoception. What does that mean? We're listening to ourselves, right? It's the 80% of the information we know travels belly up. It's belly up, bottom up. I truly believe if we open and nourish our spine, we liberate our own voice. All the people I've worked with have had their voice oppressed, right? You're literally opening that pathway. The spine is also a spirit pathways in many sacred dance traditions. Haitian dance, belly dance. It's a sacred spirit, often travels the spine to connect to the human body. I call it a riparian buffer between spirit and humans. What does that mean? A riparian buffer? If you know ecology and agriculture, every place where water meets land, we are water and land, same composition, same percentage as the earth. Every place where water meets land has its own ecosystem that keeps the water from flooding the earth and keeps the earth from drowning the water, right? We've ruined most of them on planet Earth. That's why we have all the, hurricane damage, and the spine is a cosmic riparian buffer, right? It's our own ecosystem that connects us between spirit and our earth body. That's what I believe. So we're going to play with the spine. Any questions about E's or O's?
There's just one question in the chat about Elizabeth asking about tongue placement.
Oh, there's no specific instruction. Oh, E. My tongue's kind of hanging out, floating, but I would say wherever it's comfortable. The one thing I will say is if you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, it's called, it blurs the sound, and we often blur sounds in Continuum. Kind of, it blurs it. And but mine's just kind of floating. Oh, getting gravelly voice. Oh, it's just kind of there. Let it be comfortable. So here's the practice. So we're going to take a few minutes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I wanted to give you at least 10 minutes with this. So one more thing, we always work with preparation. I like to say, because I spend a lot of time in Haiti in ceremony, 3 days of preparation for 1 day of ceremony, right? Preparation is so important, and it's what we don't have in trauma. The tissue work you did with the lunars, that internal work, is often how I prepare tissue. It literally opens your body up. So you've already done it, so we're not going to repeat it. But if you wanted to do a continuum dive, is what we call them, you could start with either the lunars spreading in your chest, or as much of your body as can tolerate, or little, and then lunar pools to address specific areas, and then do the sequence we're going to play with now, which is you're going to O in your spine. Now, I don't want to tell you which direction, so I'm going to say you can O from the center of your spine, thoracic area, and send the O filling your spine to the not only to the top and bottom of your spine, but you can connect heaven and earth, right? Axis mundi. The spine is an axis mundi. You can connect heaven and earth. You can O from the base of your spine, like up if you want, or from the top of your spine down. I like to start in the center of my spine and just spread it in both directions. And it's the same thing. You're going to do as many O's as it takes. So somebody wrote that sometimes you start well and the sound muffles. It takes time. One of the powerful things about this is you're actually increasing your capacity for longer exhales, right? Which we know promotes vagal efficiency. It actually promotes vagal tone and all of that, like this long, slow exhales. So it's a practice. And the more you do continuum, the more your breath will have that ability and the sound will sustain for longer. O's to fill your spine, top to bottom. And then do y'all know what the transverse processes are? Those lovely little bones that come off your spine. You've got your dragon scales that come off the back, but we've got the ones that are on the side of the spine. You're just going to grab, I don't mean it literally. Imagine a clump of your vertebra, 2 or 3 or 4. E, start the E's in the heart, the center of the vertebra, E, and let them spread through the transverse processes out through your ribs, your body, E. You can take them to the end of your body, or you can take them out a little farther. That's up to you. I work with people individually on that, right? So the O's can go to the top of your spine and the bottom of your spine, or you can send them beyond to heaven and earth. That's up to you. The E's, transverse heart, core of your vertebra out through your transverse processes, as far out as you can go, edge of your body or a little farther. And you just go back and forth. You do a series of O's and then a series of E's. So what might be nice is to fill your spine first and then go to the E's and then extend beyond your spine into the sky and the earth a little bit and then do some more E's. That's the practice. Is that clear enough? We're going to practice it for about 7 to 8 minutes. So get in your nest, get comfortable. You can do it sitting, you can do it lying on your side. Lots of open attention. Oh, and then see what movements emerge. If any, you might go to your side and take a nap. You can be seated, side lying, or even laying on your back, just so you can find your spine, okay? I'll call us back. I'm going to keep my sound on, O-ing and E-ing, so you can hear that frequency. And just play. And if at any point you need to pause, rest, go back to the lunars if they're helpful. If at any point it becomes uncomfortable is what I mean. Take a moment before you start just to notice your spine and see how comfortable it is, and then start this sequence. Go at your own timing. Pause and do open attention when you need to. It's a self-referential practice. We're empowering ourselves to be our own facilitator, our own healer, our own therapist, our own wise one. And knowing that you're moving and I'm interrupting, we often move on the sounding. So even though open attention is when we pause and let our body respond, if you also move when you sound, that's totally fine. A lot of times when I sound, I start to move, and it just continues into the open attention. In other words, you don't have to sit perfectly still while you sound. Let your body be your guide. Om. I said, if you're suddenly moved to do a few lunars, go for it. Or just keep traveling between the O's and the E's. A little bit of open attention. So wherever you are in this practice, begin to shift towards open attention, which is releasing. You're not doing the O's or the E's. You're letting your body be in that responsive place. Spend about a minute or so there, and then find your pause, which might be still or might not be. You might keep pulsing or moving. Acknowledging this is a taste of a practice that, I mean, you can do it in 5 minutes. You can take 5 hours, 5 days. So important to let the movement that is sequencing through you, however tiny or big it is, to keep traveling until it is okay to pause it, right? Trauma is an interruption to our natural flow. Find a satisfactory, comfortable, yeah, okay, I can pause it here just long enough to close our class today. That's all we got to pause for. Honor your own flow, your own rhythm. I don't think I'm going to stop moving actually when we come together to close, because my spine is loving this. If I wasn't teaching, I would probably be in a downward dog. I can just I would probably be, it would be, we call it downward facing octopus. I would be like more playing with that shape, pushing off the earth, right? That's where this can go. It's really juicy. I'm just going to do it at my desk. So let's gather, because we've got a few more minutes. If you want to keep practicing, here's my suggestion. Create your nest. Take a baseline of where you're at. A baseline is just, we notice when we begin a practice and we compare when we end. No demand for change. No demand for change in this work. But it's helpful to notice. So I had you notice how you feel and your thoughts and your feelings before. You can take a baseline of your breath, baseline of your spine, whatever you want to just notice, baseline of your anxiety or your state. And then the practice is prepare the tissue with the lunars. So you begin with lunars. There's no number of lunars or amount of time. You just start doing the lunars. I suggest sitting or sit in a meditation cushion in your nest, or you can do them lying down. They're a little more expansive when you lie down, and you can fill your chest like we did in the beginning, and or do pulls in specific places. If you need more containment, keep the lunars small. Just maybe put them in a small place, or they can travel. Do some open attention. and then do the O and E sequence in the spine. Now, with a lot of my clients, I might structure it. I might say 3 O's and then 3 E's, right? It can be very structured. And I might even have them put their hands where they're doing the E's. And if it's okay, I might put my hands on them, right? I'm a psychotherapist, to be a massage therapist. Touch is so natural between humans, but we've got all these rules and regulations. But I might be like, okay, or I might show them, put your hand here and do the E's and do 3 E's and then spread them. It can be very structured. It can also be very flowy because we're inviting our body to, as I said, I've said it over and over, to find our own natural rhythm, to restore the flow between our movement. So you can just riff, like I'm going to O as much as I want, open attention, E. You can structure it. And then you can go back. Do the lunars again, do the O's and E's in the spine, open attention. We often repeat it, layer it several times. It's also powerful if you're having a rough moment and you're in a public place to do a few lunar pulls into the place you're feeling the stress or the anxiety, or just do a few lunars. I do them on airplanes all the time because I travel a lot. Suddenly it's like, okay, I'm not so squished. So any last comments or questions? I know we're at time. I hope this has been helpful and interesting. Kinana Isa, you have your hand raised.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi.
Hi. Like your mom, I found it very hard to stand still, so I was moving all the time. But what I'm noticing more and more, especially with this practice, is that I'm feeling the vibration. They are very helpful, very helpful. That's inner support. At the same time, I find it hard to have all my parts enjoying together. I feel like I'm here feeling good, then something is more contracted down.
Yeah. And that's awareness, right? The more we connect to our body in any way, the more we've suddenly noticed, oh my goodness, this is tight. It's possible that it tightened up in response to something softening, right? That can happen. Oh, wait a minute, I better hold on down here. Or that it was already tight and that the softening someplace. What I would say is that might be a place to put the lunar pools, But also I'll say E's are fantastic for breaking up scar tissue and blockages. And if you need to go, please go. So a lot of times when I get to a stuck place, I'll put my hands on there and send E's. I personally, I'm going to out myself. All teachers have sounds we love and are good. I don't love the E's. I don't know why, but they're so helpful for tightness.
True. Yeah.
Because they spread the fascia. You can also spiral them in the muscle body. So, go to that place. And then that place might be like, oh, it's too soon. I don't want to do any work here. That's okay. Right?
There's an opportunity being in a master class, restructuring different O's and E's and in different ways, and see how we can connect our parts through them. Thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you. Okay, so Zoom user, your name's not there. Okay, we'll do, and then Grace.
Hi. Oh,
Hi.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
I just wondered, with the O's and the E's, does subaudible work then? I mean, if you're in the airplane doing O's and E's, you just do it silently, like?
Well, you could. I mean, like I said, the reason I do lunars is because you can't hear them. Now, okay. I will share that I once had a really obnoxious person on a plane next to me. Like, I'm not going to tell the whole story because of time. And I started sending O's out into the plane, and it shut him up. He called the flight attendant over twice. I'm a little bit bold that way, but it was just like, it was really, I mean, he was starting to pick on me because he saw my passport, right? Trying to get into a political fight. And I just started going, oh, call the flight attendant. She's like, what are you doing? He's like, she's doing something weird. I said, I'm just making O sounds. I'm calming my nervous system. I'm scared of flying. She wasn't going to stop me.
So if it's different, if it's audible or subaudible, it's a different thing. right?
Well, if you imagine you're owing, you're not going to get the same frequency. However, we talked about imagination in the beginning, and imagination is powerful. It's a bridge between what is and what's possible, right? It's the path to magic. So I would say, imagine the O's. I'm sure it'll do something.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Grace.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to speak to all the ruminators out there, and I'm fantastic at that. And so I did notice when I started to do the layering, I got warm a lot and yawned some, and I took a natural break, and I was all and focused. Hello, focused, not ruminating. Now I went away to the event that's happening, and I was able to bring myself back and refocus. So for ruminators, and you all know who you are, that's really key to be able to come back and concentrate on that.
Yeah,
so that was
beautiful.
great.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like there's, I mean, honestly, I mean, I hope this little taste, you know, and this is a practice some people go, that was kind of interesting, never again. But if you're interested, check it out. Check out the Continuum Teachers Association. There's no one way to do this. There's so many ways to practice this. So many ways. Yeah. Okay. I think Kira had to go. Her fire alarms are being tested. Okay. So I thank you all. You know, I welcome questions.
Sorry, sorry,
What?
Elizabeth, I'm still here. I just can't. The fire alarms are going off, so I just can't come on to close the session just in case. I don't want to blast everyone.
Right.
So I just wanted to say goodbye there.
Yeah.
And
No.
but we are at time, so feel free to close the session for us. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I will. And I'm so sorry about the phone. Truly, that hasn't rang for 7 years. And I don't know what happened today. So thank you, Kira, so much for holding the space. Thank you all. My website is ambergray.com. If you have questions, you can reach me that way. Yeah, and I hope the O's and the E's and the lunars and yeah, you know, support some shifting and reshaping. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Amber. Thank you, everyone.
You. Bye.